This is Brian Koslow. I'm back today with my dear friend and business partner, Dr. David Walzer. Say hello, David.
Hello.
All right.
Welcome back.
Yeah, we're back. Okay, so what we're going to share with you today, we'll pick up from where we left off on the last video. We want to thank you and welcome you back with us today. First, you remember in the last video, we did identify the hospitality industry. That in fact is the industry where we saw capturing the best cash flow from foreign dollars pouring into Panama. And remember that we chose Panama for a number of reasons. We looked at other countries in South America and Central America, and we felt that Panama, being that it's democratic, being that it's stable, being that it's got a stable and very fast-growing economy, that they're English-speaking, they speak Spanish as well, the government is very proactive. Numerous reasons why we selected Panama as our choice. And then once we selected Panama as a choice, David, we spent years looking at cash flow opportunities and eventually came to a project in the hospitality industry. Now, interestingly, hospitality is made up of pretty much of hotels and restaurants for the most part. That's the bulk of it. Interestingly, however, we looked not just at hospitality and not just at hotels, but what type of hotel. That was very, very critical in our thinking because we see a certain trend in hotel suites that we're going to share with you today, the statistics and the hard, cold facts on, and we think those make a huge difference to people's decision-making in this arena, in this area. So we're going to share that with you today about the niche within the segment of hospitality and hotels. Remember that our criteria for cash flow, and Dave, I'll just wrap up with this and then I'll pass over to you, but the criteria that we have for our clients and also for ourselves, when we first came to Panama, we put our money in first. And remember that we're looking for hassle-free, passive cash flow. We don't want something like a foreclosure where you take possession of it, you have to quit your day job because you've got to go in there and pull up the carpets and sand down the walls and the floors and clean up the mess and replace doors and bathrooms. And we don't want to create this whole thing where we've got to, find general contractors and get into fixing things up, and then you've got to pay the mortgage, you've got to pay the taxes, you have to pay the insurance while you're fixing up your foreclosure. Meanwhile, you still haven't found your tenant because it's not suitable for tenancy. Finally, you find the tenant leaves or their credit's no good, they don't pay. It's just a hassle, and we are not looking for hassles. We're looking for hassle-free for ourselves and our clients. Remember that most of our clients are thousands of miles away from Panama, even though Panama is just 2.5 hours from Miami, 4 hours from Houston, maybe 5-6 hours from most points in California. The reality of it is you don't want to have to manage it. So we're looking for passive cash flow, and we're looking for a lot of it. So we think and we believe that we found the right thing in Panama. We're going to share that project with you today. David?
Yes, Brian, thank you. We are going to share a lot of facts and statistics and research and trends with you today, as Brian said. In our formulations that we've developed over the last 7 years and perfected over the last 5, which have created a tremendous amount of cash flow and opportunity for ourselves and for our clients. And the project that we have identified was actually very validating for us because a major offshore advocacy recently looked at the project and voted it as the number one opportunity in Panama City. So that was very validating, and it let us know that our formulations are certainly accurate and correct. Right. Brian, why don't you hold up a picture, which is a rendering of the hotel.
Sure.
And the hotel, if you could just talk about the hotel for a second. This is a rendering of the hotel. The pilings of the hotel are just being completed now, so construction has begun. The hotel is the Unicorn Park Inn by Radisson. It's a boutique hotel. It's 96 units, and the units are all suites. And we're going to talk about that specific segment of the market being all suites as being a very, very key segment. We're going to go through, as we said, a lot of research and tell you about the formulations that led us to this particular project and to the suite niche within the marketplace. So we actually have a dozen or so questions that are going to guide us through. These questions were asked by and submitted by Escape Artists International Real Estate Brokers. So some leading, some top brokers internationally in the field. And these questions are going to be great because it'll kind of bring us right through the project and help expand upon the different facets. And the first question I see here, Brian, is as you travel through Panama, and I'll ask this question of you, and maybe we'll kind of go back and forth in our traditional style. As traveling through Panama, you see cranes and buildings of new hotels. Where will people come from to fill the specific rooms for the Unicorn?
Yeah, well, we touched upon it in our last video, but in this video, David, we know we're going to have to reveal the stats, the government statistics, and the facts that led us to making our decision that the Unicorn Park-In Hotel is the winner, is the cash flow vehicle in terms of real estate, in terms of great real estate project. So take a look at these 5 spokes. These 5 spokes are, as we discussed just briefly before, but this time again we're going to share statistics, government numbers. We have the medical tourism, we have shopping tourism, we have the cruise ship tourism, the convention tourism, convention center tourism, and we also have the business tourism. We're going to just speak about each of those briefly, but this time, David, I think the important thing is that we've got to show our listeners the facts, the government statistics, yes. What supported our decision that we believe this is the best-in-class cash flow real estate opportunity for our clients and for those that are listening on this video today.
Great. This is very exciting, and I'd love to begin sharing. It's really these 5 tourism spokes that speak to occupancy. So when you're looking at an opportunity like this, there are a couple of variables. One is acquisition price of a particular unit. The other is the occupancy, and the other is per night rates. And it's that combination of variables that, when put together in a certain way, certain variables in a certain way, it comes out with a tremendous formulation for cash flow. So there's already a very high occupancy rate of hotels in general in Panama City. Brian, maybe you'll show one of the research articles from Escape, which says that Panama City specifically obtained second place in hotel occupancy in the world. Now, what's very powerful about that is that there's a subset, there's a niche of the hotel rooms in the suite segment that has been overlooked by most of the hotels. Most of the major hotels have only a handful of suites, and they are completely sold out. So the research is showing that people are staying longer and longer on their trips to Panama, on business trips and as general tourists. And as they stay longer, they tend to want to spread out and have bigger spaces or suites. So I'm going to touch off on the first of these, which is, for me, probably the most exciting, which is the business tourism, Brian. And what's going on right now is really quite compelling. Again, you've got already very high occupancy rates statistically in Panama, but you've got business travelers coming in. Now, why are business travelers coming in very high numbers? It's because there's something in Panama called Law 41, which we discussed in the last video, which allows multinational corporations to relocate to Panama, in and around Panama City, on a tax-free basis. Really very compelling. So what's happened is, at the end of 2011, the applications were filed, and 61 multinationals already moved in and around Panama City. And you saw a tremendous uptake in the number of hotel rooms and hotel suites. Now, here's what's really incredible. By the end of this year, the filings and the number of multinationals that will have moved in and around Panama City by the end of 2012 will go over 200. They're increasing by 4 to 5 per month statistically right now. In fact, a total from the end of last year through now is 134, and increasing at 4 to 5 per month. By the end of 2014, and remember, 2014 is a critical date. There's kind of a perfect storm brewing about 2014 that we'll talk about in a little bit. But by the end of 2014, there will have been over 500 multinationals that have relocated to Panama City. Why is that important? Well, because business travelers now from around the world will be flying in, and do fly in, and increasing numbers will fly in to do business with these multinationals. Right. And business travelers are staying longer and longer, and they're going to want more and more suites. And so the demand for suites in the market is going to go through the roof. And we believe that the demand will probably exceed the supply. And that's very, very exciting if you're focusing on this particular niche. So, Brian, as support of that, we have a chart of the airport tourism, number of tourists coming through the airport. Now, this is very compelling because what it says at the top is that it's actually another research study that says that by the end of 2025, there will be 25 million tourists that will have come through the Tucumán International Airport, which is just a few miles outside, about 20 miles outside the city. Now, that chart that Brian just showed shows a 20% increase per year in the number of tourists that are coming through the airport. Now, if you look at the airport, it's undergone its 5th expansion and now has a full mall inside of it. Okay, and the number of terminals and direct flights from around the world is increasing. There are a tremendous number of direct flights to the United States, Europe, South America. They're adding one directly from Las Vegas. They're adding one from San Francisco, and now directly connected to Canada, major cities around the U.S., including Dallas, Houston, Atlanta, New York, New Jersey, Los Angeles, and Florida in many locations. So all of that points towards business travelers coming in, and that's very, very exciting, Brian. There are other areas where travelers are coming in as well, and that will increase the demand on suites in general. Maybe you want to speak to one of the others.
Well, this is what we see. And first of all, an airplane holds, 200 to 300 passengers. And they're coming in and out of Tucumán Airport all day and night. I mean, more and more international flights. These business travelers, and primarily they're business travelers, but even regular tourism is increasing at double digits. When you look at the business traveler segment of the people on the airplanes, a couple hundred people per plane, hundreds and hundreds of planes all day long, hundreds. Maybe it's even more than 1,000. I don't know what that statistic is, but I can tell you the big jets are in, and they're coming in more and more frequently from all parts of the world. The suites at the Unicorn is only 96 suites. So a half a plane of people, books the entire hotel. So we're not talking about a very large hotel. We're not talking about hundreds and hundreds of employees and all this. We're talking about you're owning a suite or several suites in a hotel of all suites. And the great part about that is that here in this opportunity, you can actually own, in effect, a suite in a hotel. Whereas most hotels, the Marriott, the Hyatt, the Hilton, in these hotels, you can't own the suites. You could own the whole hotel. You could go buy a hotel for $200 million. But if you're not in a position to buy a hotel for $200 million, this is a way where we found that you can capture the upswing. You can capture the increases in travel, the increases of tourism, the increases in the economy of Panama by participating in the foreign dollars inflowing to Panama. We think that's critically important, and that's why we're so much invested in this project and looking at the cash flow that this project potentially will push off for many, many years into the future. We're very proud and very excited about it. David, there's convention tourism. I'll talk about that for just a moment. Some of us don't really think much about conventions. Maybe we're not in that business or we're not really exposed to it. But think about Las Vegas for a moment. You have all the gambling casinos, you have all the excitement, restaurants and entertainment, and you have the beautiful hotels, of course, and you have the conventions. And they have the massive conventions there that bring all the foreign dollars in and people traveling, not just from the United States, but from other countries as well. But now let's think about Panama. Panama is the hub of Central America. The situation in the United States is it's harder and harder for people to get in. They've got visas, and it's very, very difficult now to get a visa from many countries. So it's harder to go to Las Vegas. Well, right in Panama City, you have gambling. In fact, in Panama, you've got, I think it's 36 gambling licenses.
36 licenses, yeah.
Yeah. So you've got some major casinos. You've got the Wyndham there. You've got Sheraton. You've got the Marriott. You've got Trump. That's open now in Panama. So, people have planted their flags in Panama, and the wave is just about to come. My partner David's going to speak with you in just a moment about all the things happening in 2014, just about the time that the Unicorn Hotel is planning to open. So when you look at all the things about to happen at the same time, and you look at the growth that Panama's already experienced, it's off the charts phenomenal. I mean, during the worldwide recession, Panama is growing faster than China and India combined. I'm going to say that again.
Combined.
During the worldwide recession. I mean, now, Panama has been growing year after year, faster than India and China combined. I'm going to read you just quickly. This is an article that just came out. I think it's quite interesting. It talks about 2011. I have to put my glasses on a little bit. What I do with my glasses? That's the problem with glasses. When you wear glasses, you can't find them and you can't see anything. That's the problem. You're not wearing them. You have to wear your glasses in order to find your glasses.
To find your glasses.
Yeah, exactly. So one of these days I'll get brave and I'll lie down and get the LASIK surgery or something. But anyway, listen to these statistics. Quite interesting. Just in the past 12 years, Panama's GDP, this is during the rest of the world's, I don't want to call it demise, but I mean collapse or recession, whatever, in some countries it's a depression. I mean, look at what's going on in Greece, look at what's going on in Spain, and Italy's not far behind. Look at what's gone on, in some countries where there's even been political collapse. You've got Egypt collapsed. I mean, now it's rebuilding again. You've got Syria is under collapse. You've got many countries in African nations that collapsed. The United States, frankly, if it couldn't print money, would be bankrupt, right? Many cities, many states are bankrupt in the United States. In fact, there's over 300 banks that went under in the United States that had to be rescued by the government. There's many countries that are in deep trouble. However, Panama, during the same period, here's this little country the size of Connecticut. And David, I think when you speak next, you ought to speak to that, what it's like having 500 companies move into a country the size of Connecticut. But listen to these numbers. In 1999, since 1999, Panama has had 169.51% increase in GDP from 1999 to 2011. Now, you tell me any other country that's had that. That's incredible. And what's really interesting is the expansion of the canal hasn't even happened yet, hasn't opened yet. Can you imagine when that opens? So, David, if you could speak to that. I mean, these statistics are phenomenal.
Sure. But there is in the research what I title a perfect storm that's brewing. 2014 is really an incredible window of things that are about to occur. As I said, the multinationals will have gone over 500 relocating to Panama City, along with tens and tens of thousands of families relocating, and tens and hundreds of thousands of people flying in from around the world constantly to do business with them. You've got a cruise ship tourism. You've got in Amador, which is just a few miles away from where Unicorn will be located, you'll have a new cruise port for cruise ships that will have opened in 2014 in Amador. You've got a convention center that Brian was talking about earlier. That new convention center is a massive convention center. It will be open in 2014. The subway will initially, the initial portions of the subway that's being drilled underground right now will be open in 2014. So and the Panama Canal expansion itself will be done in 2014, which will add not only to the free trade zone on the Atlantic side, but to the free trade zone that's now established on the Pacific side. So you've got all of this confluence of circumstances. You've got all of these things which will feed business and feed business tourism and feed medical tourism and feed convention tourism and shopping tourism. If you've been to Panama City, there's 5 major malls. Now, if you want to talk about the mall inside the airport, there's now 6 major malls inside a city of just over 1 million people. Why are there so many malls? Well, the country did a very smart thing. They've been promoting shopping tourism. And shopping tourism is very, very, very interesting. And for the first time, you've got people flying in from Brazil in record numbers, greater than the number of tourists coming in from the United States. And the number of tourists coming in from the United States is absolutely incredible in North America. But people are coming in for shopping because you get very, very fine, high-quality goods in through the canal, in through the free trade zones, into the malls, and people come for extended stays. And they either come with empty suitcases or they buy suitcases in Panama and load them up, but they stay for extended periods of time, and they tend to stay in the suites. Now, Brian was talking before about something very, very important. Here's an analogy. I live in the state of Connecticut. Connecticut is about the same landmass as the country of Panama. Now, Panama City is about the size of the county that I live inside of Connecticut. And so imagine, I just sit here in my office, in my home, and I imagine 500 multinational companies opening up in my county here in Connecticut, and a discovery of oil of $15 billion, initial discovery of oil, literally in my backyard on the other side of the county. And what would that do to our local economy? having a cruise ship port open up 5 miles down the road, have Johns Hopkins Hospital and 5 other major hospitals opening up and doing medical tourism and procedures all over, having a convention center open up, 10 miles or 5 miles away from where I live. I couldn't imagine what all of those things, that whole confluence of circumstances would do for a local economy in a small state like this. But that's the analogy of what's happening in Panama. And on top of that, to have the Panama Canal 5 miles away in my county along the Atlantic Ocean here, and absolutely incredible. I couldn't imagine. It's the greatest toll machine on planet Earth. It runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. All of those income streams, all of those business income streams, all of those tourism income streams occurring all in one place at one time. That's why you've got that long-term and stable GDP growth that you're looking for in our formulations, and that's why Panama is a winner. That's why it's a perfect storm, a perfect confluence of circumstances that leads us to this particular opportunity.
Yeah.
And,
David, let me say something. Something I think our audience would like to know, because it really speaks to the demand on suites. You would think in a country like Panama where you could eat a meal for $4, you could have a gourmet meal at the fanciest restaurants for $20. That's from the beginning right to dessert. You could buy clothing inexpensively. Everything is inexpensive. Pretty much everything is inexpensive, as you would expect. So Why is it that hotel rooms are so expensive? Well, because the demand is so high and there's so many people coming in with no place to stay. But listen to this. Do you know that suites in Panama City have gone from an average rate, just in the past 24 months, gone from an average rate of just around $320 a night to over $376 a night? Think about that. So during this world recession, Panama's suites are going up in price. It's like you said earlier, that there are hotels, but they have very few suites. So here's the unicorn, and it's all suites. I think it's the right time in the right place. And it's just like you said, it's just everything happening just at the right moment with the unicorn opening up at the subway and the canal.
Look at the statistics, but look at the trends. Look at the trend lines. It's not just a snapshot of statistics. It's the trend lines.
Yes.
And as you said, the per night rates for suites is going up. If you're an owner in a hotel and you own suites or a suite inside of a hotel, you're in heaven.
Right. Now here's what's interesting, David, here's something besides the occupancy. Here's another point. You know that if you tried to build a hotel like this, the Unicorn, you tried to build it outside of Dallas or somewhere in California, Orange County, wherever, outside of Disney, down there, Disneyland, or, you try and build a hotel like this pretty much anywhere in the States, just as an example. I mean, you could pick Canada, you could pick Europe, whatever. But you know that this hotel costs about half as much to build in Panama. So it costs half as much to build because labor is so inexpensive, relatively speaking. So it costs half as much to build, which means that the buyers who buy the suites are paying half as much for the suites that you would pay elsewhere, say, for a comparable suite, completely furnished, by the way. And these are nice suites with the bedroom and the living room, the whole shebang, really beautiful, with all the amenities. So it's all done, complete, right? So they buy a suite. And then the hotel puts it into the Radisson's reservation system, which we'll talk about in a little while. But you're buying the suites for half, and look at what you're renting them for. You're renting them for 2 or 3 times what you'd probably rent the same suite for almost anywhere else. I mean, I'm sure in New York City maybe a suite goes for, but outside of a real metropolis or a city like that, suite like this, $370 some odd dollars, $320 some odd dollars. I mean, that's what suites are going for in Panama. And you know, the Unicorn can even afford to charge less per suite if it had to fill those suites up because, I mean, come on. I mean, look at what you're paying for the suite and look at what the market rate is based on the demand for the suites right now. One statistic I want to share with our audience, David, and then I'll kind of pass the microphone, if it's a microphone, back to you.
Sure.
Here's a statistic. Here's a statistic that just came out. It shows, and this is pretty cool. Statistic just came out. This is a government report. Government report shows the comptroller of the Republic of Panama came out with a report that shows that the hospitality industry, that's primarily restaurants and hotels, just in the last quarter, that's the first quarter of 2012, they just reported on it, increased by 11.3% over the same quarter a year earlier. 11.3%.
Incredible.
Listen, how many industries? This is even before the canals expanded and opened, right? I mean, it's open, but it's been open for 100 years, but it hasn't expanded yet. So it hasn't doubled or triple capacity like it's going to do in 2014. So let's just look at just the past 12 months. So in this quarter, same quarter as a year ago, it's gone up 11.3%. I don't know how many industries are doing that you know of. I don't know of too many. That's pretty interesting if you could latch onto that cash flow, piggyback on that, and have it be passive cash flow from a real estate holding. I think that makes it kind of interesting. But David, go ahead. Back to you.
The bottom line to the formulation is if you can have very high occupancy rates, which there are, and you can have very high per night rates, which they are. Those are where the trends are going. And you can have a demand which outstrips supply, and you can have an acquisition cost half of what it would cost you in a regular market in North America. You've got an absolute winning formula. Yeah. Those are the variables that you have to look at. And as long as the occupancy is filled by the 5 spokes, which are going to only expand on the occupancy to greater levels for that demand on suites, you've got a perfect storm happening. Now, this project is under construction, and delivery is expected in the first quarter of 2014.
Perfect time.
Just as the canal is being completed, just as the convention center is being completed, just as the subway is coming online, just as the other hospitals are opening up for medical procedures. The cruise ship port is opening up a few miles away. On and on and on. All of these things are all just happening all at the same time. The multinationals have gone over 500 at that point. It's an incredible confluence of circumstances that leads to this. So very exciting. It's the best that we've identified in our 7 years plus in Panama. So we're very excited by it.
Yeah, David, I have something that I think is a very stabilizing factor also, because, look, frankly, someone could say, market conditions change. I like that I don't have to be a landlord. I like that I don't have to worry about tenants. I don't have to worry about fixing anything that's broken. I mean, I like how it's hands off. I like how it's passive. But the truth is market conditions do change. This is real estate.
Sure.
And it's commercial cash flow, but it's real estate. You're buying real estate. But you know what? The reality of it is there's some stabilizing factors. Besides the growth of the country and the promise of future growth with the canal expansion, I mean, there's a lot of indicators that could really give someone, some certainty, you know what I mean? Like the kind of certainty we have. Everybody has to make their own decision, though, and come to their own conclusion. I have something that I think really shows a stabilizing factor, and that is that, if you look in Europe, look at Madrid, for example, Spain, they have these fashion shows that take over the entire hotel, even several hotels. And they do the runway, the platform, the runway like you see on television. They do that in Madrid. It's very big in Europe. Well, Latin America now is just coming around to the whole fashion industry, or should I say the whole fashion industry is coming around to Latin America. I'll tell you something. When we first came to Panama, Dave, you remember how in the mall you never saw, when we first came 7 years ago, there was no Cartier. There was no Rolex. There was no Lowe's or Hermes. There was no, I don't know, a lot of these fancy stores that they have there now, Bulgari. You didn't have these stores. But if you look there now they have them. So fashion, it's becoming fashionable in Latin America, especially in Panama. So here's something brilliant that the developer of the Unicorn Hotel did. I think it's brilliant move. I'm going to show you a picture of this. Basically, what he's done is he's having the entire lobby designed by Enrique Coveri. It's also known as the Coveri House. Now, some of you may own some clothing that's Coveri. I had never thought, like, who's Coveri? Because I'm not European. I'm from America, and Europeans know who Coveri is. A very popular brand over there. It's a very popular name, a designer name. They make jewelry, they make handbags, all couture, beautiful items. Very high end. I didn't even know, but I went in my closet one day to put a light blue shirt on that I had, and sure enough, right on the shirt it said Coveri. I'm like, wow, that's who this is. So, it's kind of interesting. If you look in your closet, you may have something from them, but it's a big fashion company in Europe. They're based in Italy, and look at the runway shows they have in Europe. They're going to bring this to the Unicorn. So this is a big deal that they're bringing to the Unicorn Coveri House, and look at the runway shows. I mean, I want to be there for this. This is going to be cool.
And that ties right into the shopping tourism.
Yeah.
See, what will happen is Unicorn will be the hub of the fashion industry in Panama City. in the midst of all of this shopping tourism going on. And they're very deep pockets in that arena. People who are part of that fashion industry tend to stay in suites, and they want a different level of service.
Yeah, they'll spend money. The whole industry spends a lot of money. You know what's really going to be a lot of fun? David, you know what's really going to be a lot of fun is when the owners in the hotel, people who buy suites, they come and they visit. One of the questions is do you get any free nights when you own a room? I'll just answer that real quickly. The answer is yes and no.
Sure.
Yes, you get free nights if you own a suite in the hotel. You don't if you buy it through an IRA, however, which David will speak about in just a few minutes. But here's the real good part. If you own a suite in a hotel, or even if you're just visiting the hotel, when the fashion show's in town, you're going to want to go to the rooftop, because the rooftops, you're going to have a lounge and a spa, and, it overlooks the ocean, the park, and you can see everything from there, the whole city. It's just absolutely magnificent. So just like in South Beach, you have these boutique hotels, and at the top of the hotel, they have these beautiful, amenities up there, these big, gigantic beds and lounges and bars and music, and so the Unicorn's going to have all that, and that's going to be very, very exciting. I can't wait to go, especially when the fashion shows are in town, and it's going to be, I think it'll be amazing. I'll be very proud to be the owner of units in the hotel. When that comes about. Yeah. But anyway, Dave, maybe we could talk about that question about, do you get to use the hotel? I'll ask you that question.
Sure.
Do you get to use the hotel at all if you buy a unit? How does that work? For each unit that you buy, do you get a certain number of nights?
The answer, Brian, is yes. The answer is yes. You get 30 days per year complimentary per unit that you own. If you don't use any of those days, they go back in and you earn income from them for any days that you're not there. So you can't earn income while you're staying there, but you do if you put them back into the pool. So yes, but as you said before, if you're making a purchase, and about half of the people who've purchased have taken retirement funds, rolled them into self-directed IRAs or cash book IRAs, you cannot stay at the hotel in an investment property if you're buying it through a self-directed IRA. That's the only caveat there. But you're just going to collect the cash flow for the 365 days, which is not a bad thing. Brian, let me ask you some of the questions here. We've covered a lot without asking them, actually, but let me ask you the next one. They say it's very important about the entire management team. Can you explain who the management team, including the developer, the management company, and the reservation system?
Yeah, let's start with the developer. I think, whenever you look at a project, you want to make sure that the developer is, just really, they know what they're doing. They have a strong track record. And I'll give you an example. You don't want a developer that's on their first, second, third, fourth, fifth project, because you don't want them learning the learning curve on your dollar, on your dime, so to speak. At least I don't on my dime, and I wouldn't want that for our clients either, David. So we looked at the developer of the project, and that for us was a primary factor to work specifically with this project. And that is, his name is Bruno Carnicella. He's an Italian gentleman, and he's really the consummate developer for a number of reasons. First of all, he's got 40 years of experience. He's got over 35 projects. Some of them are award-winning projects. He's built internationally. He's also built in the United States. He's built much of Coconut Grove in Miami, Florida, that whole area. It's a very ritzy area. Some beautiful buildings that he's built there and homes that he's built there. He's also built buildings in Peru. He's got developments in Colombia. He's also got developments that he's built in Panama. So here's an international developer, really, like I said, the consummate developer. He speaks 4 languages fluently. He writes them. He's impeccable. Every meeting that I go to that he's at, and he is directing the engineers or he's directing the architects, he just speaks so eloquently and respectfully, and yet at the same time he knows his work inside out. And you know what? If you're going to have a craftsman build something that you're eventually going to own, I would want an Italian craftsman. I mean, they build the best. I mean, look at the Ferraris. Yeah, they know how to build. They know how to build. They're real craftsmen. They really know how to build. And he's built some beautiful projects. And not only that, but like I said, he's got the track record. And that's the key thing. You want a developer with a track record. So when you do your due diligence on any project, on anything, no matter what you do, whenever you're dealing with real estate, you want to look at the developer, especially on new construction. You want to make sure that they build, you want to make sure that they deliver, and you want to make sure that they know what they're talking about. And Bruno Carnicella does, and that gives us a lot of confidence in this project and future projects that Bruno will be building. So that's the developer. And then the management team is a group called Guarantee Management. They're based in Peru. They have 5-star hotels throughout Latin America, and they'll also be managing the Unicorn Hotel. It's really a great group to have because they do have 5-star hotels. They know what they're doing, and they'll be contracted. They are actually contracted with the Unicorn Hotel as well. I also want to speak, David, to the reservation system. A small hotel like the Unicorn, only 96 suites. Some people might be thinking, gee, you probably don't even need a reservation system. But you know what? If you think about your purchase, and you think about when you're not staying in your room and you want to put it back into the reservation system, you want it to be with the Radisson. You think about it. The reservation system, you could make an appointment, make a reservation in Russia. You can make your reservation from Asia, anywhere in Europe, Latin America, anywhere, North America, the whole continent, anywhere, Australia. So, you could be on the North Pole and want to make a reservation at the Unicorn, and you can do it. So you might say on the one hand, gee, small hotel, just 96 suites, probably don't even need a reservation system that's so broad and so international. But, I think Bruno really did something right there. He put the Radisson Park-In flag on it. They've been really great with upholding the highest quality standards to make this an outstanding boutique hotel. And we're really quite proud of his accomplishments with this, as well as with what this hotel is going to look like when it's all completed and delivered.
The next question, Brian, is, and thank you for that. The next question is, how much do people need to deposit for each unit? You want to speak to that?
Sure. Well, first, you can make a reservation for just $5,000, and that stays in escrow. And you know what? If you don't go through with your purchase for whatever reason, you don't send your first deposit, whatever you don't like, or you decide you want something else, that's fine. You get your $5,000 wired right back. Why then do you have to send the $5,000, people will ask? It's very simple. What it does is really a benefit to you. What it does is it reserves your unit. So I'll give you an example. There's half the hotel's already been sold, and the hotel, remember, the hotel's not out of the ground yet. That's going to start in about a month and a half from now. So your reservation holds your unit. What does that mean? Well, even though 48 units have been sold, and there's another 48 to be sold, there's only 2 left of the larger ones. So let's say you wanted one of the larger ones, just as an example. No one can guarantee you those will still be there by the time your reservation comes in, but if you wanted one of those and you sent your reservation in right away, you'd lock it in. You would lock in the price, and you would lock in that unit. So nobody else anywhere in the world can sell that unit. A lot of these units are being sold on the ground in Panama and in Europe, and to people who are looking to have commercial cash flow, but more importantly, to own the property, right? Because you're really buying property here. So the byproduct of the property is the commercial cash flow. So if you want to own that unit, you should reserve that unit. It would guarantee that it would still be there for you within 30 days. You have 30 days to make your purchase decision. But to answer the second part of your question, which was, well, how much do you need maybe that was the first part of your question. I know you asked the question. I think it was the first part of the question. I asked the second part first. But anyway, so to answer the other part of your question, it takes about $25,000 for the initial deposit. After the $5,000, so an initial another $20,000. So depends on which unit, of course, because the unit determines the price. A higher floor is a little more than a lower floor. A bigger unit's a little more than a smaller unit. So, but it's roughly around $25,000 is the initial deposit.
Very good. The next question I'll answer.
Okay.
Can people purchase multiple units? And how many units are still available? We did answer the second part of the question, so I'll reiterate the second part of the question first. There are 48 units remaining out of the total 96 suites, and yes, people can make purchase of multiple units. You can purchase 1, 2, 3, or more units, so that answers that very simple question. I got the ansher there.
Let me ask you a question.
Brian,
let me ask you a question.
You can ask me a question.
I'm going to ask you a question. David,
batter up.
Yeah. Can you purchase one or even more than one unit out of your IRA? How does that work? Because some people, have IRAs and
Sure.
maybe their funds have been dormant or they've even seen them slide backwards. They're interested in
Sure.
getting them out and
Sure.
maybe putting them in a foreign, jurisdiction that is growing, a foreign country that is growing and has a lot of economic opportunity. So how does somebody do that? What's the mechanics?
Yeah, it's actually very easy. There are intermediaries that are used that are custodians, and in the United States there are several big custodian houses, and we've worked with most of them. The project is actually has to be reviewed and approved by these big houses in the United States, and the unicorn has been. So with certain ones, we can direct you to certain custodian houses that we've already worked with, and they just need certain documentation about the purchase and so forth. It's usually a 3 to 4 week process of going from your traditional IRA, rolling it into a self-directed IRA, and making the purchase. And yes, you can make a foreign real estate purchase, a business purchase for that sake through your IRA, through your self-directed IRA. And what I have found in working with people, I know we've both found, is that people have underperforming funds in the United States, and they're just simply interested in doing better than they are. And some are interested in getting funds out of harm's way for a lot of different reasons in the U.S. And it makes a very viable opportunity to do so.
Sure, it's foreign real estate. Basically, they're purchasing foreign real estate, and that's
correct.
That's an excellent hedge. Historically, it's been an excellent hedge against inflation and other things that people may want to have dollars overseas for. Let's talk for a moment, David.
Yes.
I was going to ask a question.
I was going to ask you the next batter-up question.
All right, go ahead.
Batter up, Brian. The next question is, how is financing handled at closing?
Oh, okay. Well, first, closing isn't going to happen for about 18 months. So, because remember that the pilings are just getting completed, superstructure has to start, and then it's roughly an 18-month cycle. So right now, today, you don't even have to think about financing. But when you do think about financing, it's about 14 months, maybe 15 months from now. And the banks in Panama are very friendly. They do have financing available. So it's really, it's actually, I think, less paperwork and less of a hassle than it is in some other countries. Sure. It's fairly easy. They like foreigners, especially they like Americans. If you're American, you're listening to this video. I know a lot of people who are listening to video from other countries. But they like foreigners. There's many foreigners in Panama. Remember that. They love
Americans and they love Canadians alike.
They do. They do. They like foreigners. I mean, they're great people, just very loving people, and they're really. I mean, what I find about Panama that I really love is that the people are just so non-judgmental. They don't care where you're from. They don't care if you're green, orange, purple, or any other color. Yes. They don't care what your background is or any. It just doesn't matter to them. What matters to them is that you're caring, that you're responsible, that you're loving. I mean, that's just the way they are. It's a wonderful society.
And they like authenticity, which is great.
Yeah, they really are authentic. It's beautiful people, beautiful culture. Yeah.
I'm going to ask myself the next easy question. It's kind of a self-pitch here. So I'll swing at this one. Do you have to come to Panama to make my purchase? No, is the simple answer. You don't. I'd say 90-95% of the folks who've made purchase so far have done so, working over the internet with pictures and documentation and over the telephone and back and forth. So it really is a very simple process. So that answers that question. That was easy.
Yeah.
Let me ask you the next question.
No, you're going to give me the tough one. All right, go ahead.
You ready for the pitch? Here it comes.
Go ahead.
How do you recommend people get started with this opportunity?
Oh, well, all right. That's not so tough. It's a good question, but it's not tough. All right. Well, first of all, we have a website. You can look at it. It's www.panamaunicorn.com. Again, www.panamaunicorn.com. You could also call David or I. Our contact information is on the website. We're happy to speak with you, whether you make a purchase or not. I mean, David and I could be traveling anywhere in the world. We have Skype. We have the internet. We will get back to you or answer your call immediately. We also have email. So, we can send you files and folders and pictures and blueprints and permits and just anything you want. We're happy to be of service to you. It would be our honor. It would would be our privilege to give you any information that we have. We're happy to share all of the due diligence that we've done so that you can do yours and feel very comfortable in your purchase. David, I think we talk about what's coming up on the next video. Do you want to do that?
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Sure. On our next video, so please stay tuned for our next video, we have a leading legal expert from Panama and Panama City is going to be talking to us and answering questions about protecting your assets, and certainly some folks right before closing may want to address that issue in 16 to 18 months from now with units purchased. And he'll be answering, lots of questions about private interest foundations and corporations and banking and general things of interest that you're going to want to know about Panama. So, all great stuff, a great legal expert, great legal mind, and we're very, very excited to have him joining us on the next video. So, that I believe is it for now, Brian. And as Brian said, make contact with us. We'll sit with you and work with you and consult with you and help you determine whether this is something that's appropriate for you or not. And we'll be the first to tell you, what our thoughts are on that. So, Brian, anything else to add?
No, that's it. I just want everybody to know we appreciate your staying with us and listening, and hopefully you've gained a lot of insights and a lot of value from the previous video and this video and the one to come. So we look forward to seeing you again. Thank you, and
Great.
God bless you. And
thank you all. God bless. Thanks. Bye.